Welcome to the Suicide Solution. I hope that you're returning, and if not, then welcome. I'm glad that you decided to tune in and see what this was all about. I had to drive from Prescott, Arizona to uh, a suburb of Phoenix today and just got back. It's been a long day, but all day I was thinking about, what I would talk about and what I wanted this episode to be about. And I was thinking to myself and actually talking to a friend of mine this week that, if you went to a therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist, any of those mental health professionals, and you were looking for one who had attempted to take their life and survived, I don't think you'd be able to find one. Now, I'm not saying that I'm against therapy because I think that there are situations where therapy is warranted. However, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And when I needed to talk to somebody about breast cancer and chemo and reconstruction surgery and things like that, there was no way I was going to go talk to someone who had not experienced breast cancer. There's no way. Um, and I found somebody that was perfect for me in that time. So I think of this in the same way that if you are someone who's attempted to take your own life and you survived, or you're a mental attempter, which is you think about attempting to take your life a lot, or you think about it all the time. You're fixated on it, you're fascinated with it, you're obsessed with it. That's who I want to reach out to. That's who I want to talk to. So, I was going to talk about these other things and how I help myself and all these great tips because last time I talked about trust and who we could trust as my first tip. And you can check out the first episode about other ways that I've learned to help save myself. But I decided that I should lend some credibility to myself. Um, why would you even want to listen to me? Or why would you trust me of all people? Like I said before, I'm not a medical professional. I don't have any letters behind my name. I'm not qualified to maybe help somebody in your situation, but I am an expert at something, and that is at saving my life. And, when I woke up from my attempt, um, I was in a much worse shape than the moments before I tried to take my life. So I just wanted to share a little bit and kind of touch on some things about my past and the history of my life, that some things I've gone through uh, that I hope helps you understand that I understand. I get it. I understand and can relate to you. And so I'm not sure how much I'll share tonight. Um, Always feel free to reach out to me. You can message me at thesurvivorcoach@gmail.com. I'll take any questions until I get my suicide solution email set up. Any way you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to answer any questions. So, when I was 3, my parents got divorced, and uh, I my mom's side of the family were total Pentecostal religious people, and didn't really know my dad's parents, so I don't really know what they were. Um, so they got divorced, and that was I what I call my first trauma. Um, a story I've told many times, I'll tell it here, is the first time that I went to my dad's for his visiting weekend. I went to his house, and he lived in an apartment, and I love the water and he loved the water. So we go to his apartment pool, and I was so excited. He was so excited to teach me how to swim. And so the first thing he did was he taught me how to doggy paddle. And I got that really quick. And I was so happy to be with my dad. And um, then he's taught me how to swim, like in the shallow end. And so my dad, um, the story goes, is that he was such an asthmatic that whenever he was younger, he had to have shots to control his asthma. So I also had asthma, but I guess my parents didn't know it. I don't really know, but I knew that I had some kind of issue with breathing and couldn't do certain things. But I do remember that if I lift my arms above my head, that it would allow enough, open my airways up, I guess, and I could breathe again if I just would stay still. That's kind of how I dealt with it at the time. And so he would have me start in the shallow end and then swim. He's standing at the end, other end, at the deep end, just encouraging me, come on, Kelly, you can do it, you can do it. And every time I got about halfway over, I would stop because I was starting to not be able to breathe. This happened about 3 times, and every time I couldn't even make it. Then, the second time I couldn't make it to the middle. The third time I couldn't even make it further than I did that last time. So I just went a little bit and then kind of went over to the side and grabbed on. And I could just see the disappointment in my dad's face. He was just so disappointed and not encouraging me in any way. Wasn't, there were no words. He said no words to me. And he walked over, and I had a towel on a layout chair, and he reached down, and I reached my hand up. He pulls me out of the water, takes me over to where my towel was, set me down, and left me there. Walked out of the gate. I can't breathe. So I lay down and I get my hands over my head so I can breathe and take in some deep breaths and stay there, crying, not knowing what to do. It's my first time in a new city at a new apartment, and I had no idea what to do. And there ends the memory. I have no memory of how I found his apartment or anything. But what that told me was, wow, my mom must have really done something wrong too. That's probably why she's crying all the time. So I didn't understand. I knew she was crying. I knew it was because of my dad, but that's really all I understood at that age. And so I just thought, well, she must have really screwed up. And that's why they're not together. And now I've really screwed up. And it just seared in my brain that you need to be perfect. You can't screw up, or people are going to leave you. Men are going to leave you. And so that was the start of just something that was ingrained deep in my mind. It just was there forever. I struggled with being a perfectionist for many, many years. Probably still do, but I'm far better than I was. And so there started my life. Uh, then I ended up, and I'm not really sure how old I was, but I would say maybe 7 years old. My dad had moved from Dallas, Texas to Austin, Texas, and I was at his house, and he worked every day, all day. So I was there by myself. So I got curious and was a nosy kid and started looking around, and was not too hard to find Playboy magazines. So obviously I started looking through them, and I was instantly, I mean, I remember it very clearly thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't what my mom looks like. I know my mom's not doing this stuff. Yet another thing, oh, when you grow up, you got to aspire to be like these people, these girls, because this is how you're going to keep a man. And again, I grew up, I was such a good kid. I didn't ever do anything wrong, and I did what I was told. But man, secretly behind closed doors in my mind, I thought, I can't wait to grow up. I can't wait to do all these things that everybody tells me don't do, and they don't tell me any reasons why I shouldn't do them. So I'm going to figure this thing called life out myself. And so that too was in my mind. And then around that same age, I started being molested by a female cousin. And luckily, this was in Oklahoma, and we lived in Dallas. And so this only happened when we went to Oklahoma and when it was a situation where the cousin stayed the night. At that time, my dad didn't help us. We drove to Oklahoma to get anything that my grandparents had in their deep freeze if they could help us. Um, I'm just so embarrassed to even say it, uh, but I have eaten squirrel because there was no other food, and it was so gross, and it was just I hate even remembering it, much less even admitting it and talking about it. But I just want you to know that I grew up poor, and you me and my mom split a piece of bread before because that was all we had, and my dad sitting there, living the high life and not providing any clothes, any shoes, any socks, any underwear, any clothing, any time, nothing. And so he was just not a provider, and he was really not there for me emotionally, physically, financially, anything. And so it was all on my mom's shoulders. And so if anything happened to me or went wrong at school, or really with pretty much anything like me being molested, I did not tell my mom because as a child, I could see what all she was going through. And if we couldn't afford to eat and I needed shoes for school or PE or whatever, I wasn't about to tell her because where were we going to get it from? So I just kind of took on all of the weight of the world, on my shoulders. And so while I was at school, um, I got made fun of by all the popular kids, and then other people just joined in and about what I wore, and I was unkept, and I wore glasses, and so I got made fun of for that. And anyway, um, after all of that, I'm trying to remember. It's so hard. Just a lot of things that happened to me seem like nothing in comparison to these bigger things. So I'm just gonna not talk about those. Um, so whenever I was 14, I got this little boyfriend, and I was 14 wearing a size 14. So what we did have money for was, bologna sandwiches and junk stuff that was affordable, I guess, like now. And so I had gained some weight. Well, I was got this little boyfriend mainly to prove to myself that I wasn't going to grow up to be gay. My brother was gay. We had around this time found out that he was gay. I guess I was a little bit older, maybe 10, 11, 12. I can't remember. And I knew my mom would highly disapprove of this. But in my mind, that was really the reason that I had this little boyfriend. Well, I was so nervous about my mom finding out that I couldn't eat. And so I ended up becoming anorexic. I was super, super skinny. I couldn't keep any food down. And long story short, I ended up confessing to her what had happened with my cousin and about the boyfriend and why I had the boyfriend. And I, to this day, don't even have any idea if she ever confronted the parent or anything. But anyway, so that happened. Well, that summer, I had lost all this weight. I had my hair done. I got contacts, and I looked pretty. I was a different person when I started freshman year, and freshman or sophomore, I can't remember, one of those. And oh boy, I started back to school, and all the boys were just all after me, just these same kids that could not pay me the time of day, uh, not even say excuse me in the hallway or ever make eye contact. Now, or was interested. There started my continuation of becoming a man hater. And I'm not proud of that fact, but that is what happened. It wasn't until I was much, much older that I even realized my disdain for men. Or maybe it was that kind of man. I don't know, but it wasn't um, any good feelings, that's for sure. And so I had nothing to do with any of those guys from high school, was not interested. So I got a job at 15, and I met somebody, and he was terrible. He was a criminal. I found out he was a criminal. I found out everybody in his family was a criminal, and I broke up with him. So about 4 or 5, 6 days after I broke up with him, I was so sick. And I just thought, oh my gosh, please, no, this cannot be happening to me. He was the first person I'd ever had sex with. And my mom, of course, was also very religious and against, sex before marriage and blah, blah, blah. So I, my brother actually took me to get a blood test and it came back negative. So I don't know what happened, but I was so excited and so glad. Didn't say a word to my boyfriend. And about a week more goes by and I'm so sick. I just know I'm pregnant. I mean, I just knew it because I was so sick. So I told my brother again, and my mom was in insurance, and she must have had an idea. She had a really good intuition, and she asked me if I could. There was a chance I could be pregnant because she was going to add me to life insurance or something, and then that was one of the questions. That's what she said. And I just said yes. I couldn't lie to her. And I was like, yes, I could be. So I found out I was pregnant, and, this was in the 80s, and the right thing to do was to get married. And so I remember my wedding day, she was like, I don't care what it looks like on the outside. I don't care what anybody else says or thinks. I don't care what money I've spent. If you don't want to get married, I don't want you to feel like you have to. But, you know, I felt like it was the right thing to do. I just felt like I had to at least give it a shot. And so I got married. Um, and then by now I was 16. And on the day before my 17th birthday, I know I'm probably getting these numbers wrong, but anyway, it's right around the same time. Um, my water broke way too early. And so he was born 12 weeks early and was in NICU, intensive care, for a while. And I brought him home, and he ended up dying when he was 4 months old. After that, being so young, I didn't know how to deal with that. The culmination of things that had happened in my life leading up to this point now, um, I was completely lost. I remember the doctors asking me if I wanted to hold him. And I obviously said yes, it was going to be the last time I would hold my child. And they didn't hand him to me and support his head. And I had my arms and his head fell. And I'll never, ever forget that. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And I walked outside and I just thought, that's when the thought of suicide just really, really started becoming my way of thinking. That was my way of coping, was that I have this idea out here, and if I just think about not being here, just not being here, then I'm able to just kind of take myself away from how I'm feeling and the pain of what this feels like. And nobody should go through this. And why is this happening to me? And all the things. So, a little bit of a backstory. I had found out that I was literally suicidal before I even knew what that meant. So my mom had found a diary of mine. I guess I had wrote suicidal type notes or things, thoughts, and she took me to therapy. That was all regarding my dad, I guess, is what the counselor told her. But after that, I don't really remember thinking suicidal thoughts until the day my son died. And so 6 years later, my mom died. It was about 4 or 5 years later that she had got cancer. She got better, and then it had gone to her brain, and she died 8 months later after that. And she was my number one supporter. She was my very best friend. We were so, so close. I'm the baby of the family. She was my everything. If I needed anything, I could call my mom. Uh, Literally anything. She was a jack of all trades. She just knew the answer to everything. I just loved her dearly. She loved me dearly. And, we went through a whole lot together. And I was only 23 years old, and you just need your mom. I didn't have my dad around, and I didn't really have anybody. I mean, I had my big brother at the time. Um, I guess I had my sister, but she's 10 years older than me. And I just felt really alone. And the end of that year, she died in April. And in December, I met my would be husband. And so I'm leaving out a lot of stuff just because it's been 21 minutes already and I don't want to bore you. But um, I ended up being married for 20 years. And during that time, towards the end, when I was 40 years old, I found out that I had breast cancer. And so I went through reconstruction surgery and chemo and a couple of surgeries actually. And during that time, my husband was acting really strange, just very strange. But I really was just trying to fight cancer and get better. I just didn't have time for any of this shit. So I was just laser focused on getting better. And so, and I also had two young kids. I mean, they were like the middle school age. And so, two daughters, and I had to take care of them. And so, after my last treatment, I think I had like just peach fuzz, growing back on my hair. And my ex was just every man's man, super great guy on the outside. He appeared to be. What I thought at the time that everybody loved him. And I had no idea that other people had been questioning things too, but I had no clue. And so he just continued to act strange, just did very bizarre stuff. And I decided no one will believe me if I say I think he's cheating or I think something's up. They would just, I just knew within my heart that if I said to anybody that knew us well, they would immediately think that this was me, this was the chemo, this was me going through cancer, whatever other bullshit they could make up. So it turns out about 2 or 3 years prior, I had gone to this women's event and met this lady just randomly, and she had her own private investigating firm. And so I got a card, and that the day I met her, the day I laid eyes on her, I remember looking at her thinking, I might need her one day. And that was kind of like just a fleeting thought. But in that moment, I thought, I am going to send her a text message and give her this list of stuff that I think that I see that's going on and ask her, hey, what do you think? She immediately replied and said, Kelly, I'm sorry to tell you, but he's cheating. And so I said, okay, well, here's the deal. Nobody's going to believe this. I need to have proof in black and white. And what can I do? And I had been saving money and had saved up $500. And she called me back and she said that she has interns that try to get their hours while they're becoming private investigators for her firm, and that she has a new intern and that he would do it all remotely for me for $500. Well, I took that as a sign and had it all done. Found out that, yes, she was right. I was right. And shortly after that, uh, he got a job in Georgia. So here I am without a job, and I have to go with him. I thought that then. Looking back, I should have stayed my ass here and trusted that it would work out. But that's not what I did at the time. So I went to Georgia with him. The kids and I went, and it was living hell. I mean, it was just living hell. I was extremely suicidal. Here I was, I didn't have any nipples, still don't. I had lost my boobs. I didn't have my hair, had hardly any hair. Now I find out he's been with someone else. He's been looking at pornography, and I felt like the least amount of woman that I could possibly feel. And I was extremely, extremely suicidal. And during that time, my marriage was just shitty as could be. Once I had discovered everything, I guess whoever he was internally became who he was. And it was somebody that I didn't recognize. I did not ever see my husband again, who I was married to. And my kids lost their dad. It was it was terrible. It was mentally tormenting. I felt like I was damaged goods. I was broken. I was irreparable. I was not fixable. It was by this time I didn't realize how bad I was, but it was very, very, very bad. And I kept telling myself I was just waiting for the last shoe to drop. If because we were going to counseling, he was going to counseling with me every single week. And so I thought, okay, if he screws up one more time, you know, I know that sounds so stupid now, but anyway, that's it. I'm done with this life. And it was so bad that I just thought, my kids would be better. They probably hate me. He obviously hates me, and that what's the point of even living? And so I did find out he's still the exact same person. Why I thought he would be any different, I'm not sure. And that was that. And I tried to take my life. So it was I was in the hospital for a while on life support, got out, was immediately sent to a mental hospital. And, when I was there, we were separated from people who were like schizophrenic, really very mentally ill. And the people that I was with were just like me. They were just, normal people that had either attempted to take their life or they had checked themselves in because they were suicidal, and they all had normal jobs, and they were just like me. And I made some good friends there and got out, and that's kind of where that part of the story ends. It was really bad. I was really suicidal. Um, my ex-husband and his family, I think his parents, helped to keep me in the house that I was in, which was good but bad because I would just get up in the mornings, go drop my kids off at school, come back and get right under the covers, and was just so suicidal, so depressed. But there's no way I could look my children in the eyes and ever do that again. So I kind of went from there. And that's pretty much the gist of what led me to being suicidal uh, m- during my life, what led me up to trying to take my life, and then my children actually being my reason for living. And so my whole purpose that I have discovered is to help people out there that have been through some shit, that I've learned. I've got so many great, great tools and methods to help you yourself if you're like this, to keep yourself alive until you can just take baby steps till you get to even bigger changes to where you actually want to live life. You know, I'm here for it. I'm here for these people, including me, that has had a hard, hard life, to turn around and live life hard and love life hard and realize that, you know what, there's more to life than thinking suicidal thoughts. And it can get you in a trap and you can stay there, but it's only a part of who you are. It is a small part. It seems to take up everything now, maybe, but it is only a small part. And I'm here to help you discover the part that's not suicidal. And I'm going to start, if I can figure it out. I've been trying and I just can't figure out how to put it on YouTube, but I'm going to start with doing like a very short talk meditation for people who don't even do meditation, mainly just to show you that you really can quiet your mind for just a couple of minutes. I mean, even if you just like right now, close your eyes, you just close your eyes and all you see is darkness. And for a minute, just for just a second, you're not thinking thoughts. It's something that is a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle to me as a person that thought about suicide all the time, that there are ways that you can not think about it for even just a minute. It's so exhausting. I don't know about you, but if you were like me, or if you are like I was, it is so mentally exhausting. It's crushing. It's soul crushing to live this way. And there's a way out. I promise you. If you will just stick with me, I promise you with all my heart that there's another way. And it starts within you, because you know you better than anybody else. You spend more time with you than anyone else. So I just want to help you live life and love living it. I love life. And I never, ever knew that this was possible. I thought it was the mind I had been given, and I'm sure you do too. I thought this was the way of life for me. It was the hand I had been dealt, and that was that. But it's not, and we can be in control of it. We have the power within ourselves to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and we can do this. If you think about all the shit you've already been through in your life and you made it to today, to somehow finding me and finding the suicide solution that I just recently started, and am just now putting myself out there and making my own self vulnerable for you, because I know you're out there. I don't know who you are, but I know I'm doing this if I can help one person. And my new vision is, if I can help one person that helps one person that helps one person, we can do something about this. We can help people. We can do like the butterfly effect. You know what that is? Please look it up. And I totally, totally believe. I believe in my ability to help you, and I believe in you. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love more than anything to hear from you, to hear that I'm finding my people, and I know you're it. So I just want you to know I think about you all the time. I don't know who you are, but I do know that um, I'm supposed to be connected to you. And I can't wait to do this life together. So I'll see you next time.